To put it into perspective for the casual viewer, the Vikings have lost not one, not two, not three, but four Super Bowls, all in the 1960s and 1970s. And really, none of them were even that close. But more recently, the Vikings haven't even been making it to Super Bowls. Instead, they decide to choke earlier in the season, with field goals. Like in early 2016, when Vikings kicker Blair Walsh missed what most would consider a chip shot, sending the Seahawks to the second round of the playoffs and ending the Vikings season right there in the fourth quarter. But why exactly did Blair Walsh miss such a seemingly easy field goal for him? Was it the holding of the football, either laces in or laces out? And how did this affect the Vikings moving forward? Towards the end of the NFC wildcard game, the Army Men Vikings are in search of a field goal to take the lead against the Seattle Seahawks on the Seahawks' 9-yard line. Blair Walsh lines up to kick. No real rush from either side. He gets the kick off, it's up in the air, and it misses wide left. In the actual video of Walsh's attempt, the laces are facing inward towards him, right here. However, in most field goal attempts, the laces are facing outward, away from the kicker. But on a chip shot like this, it really shouldn't make that much of a difference which way the laces are facing. And also with his pivot foot, it's not really that far away from the ball either. So I guess you just kind of have to equate this field goal miss to nerves under stress. And here's me trying to do the same field goal and failing miserably. Although that might not be the Vikings' most costly field goal miss. In 1998, kicker Gary Anderson hadn't missed a field goal the entire season, but missed one in the NFC Championship game, barring the Vikings from a Super Bowl trip. Although this kick was a little bit harder to make. It was from 38 yards away, and Minnesota was up 27-20 towards the end of the fourth quarter. So they basically had it in the bag, as long as their defense didn't mess up, which they did. Although Gary Anderson still missed the kick. And here's how. Anderson back to kick. He receives the snap. Edge rushers from the right side. That means he has to pull it to the left side a little bit. But it goes too far and misses wide left. And thus, the Vikings' legendary 1998 season comes to an end. And now that we have the field goals out of the way, we can really dive into some fans' experiences with the Vikings over the years.
My name's Chris Meyer.
And what do you do?
I'm a retired corporate financial person.
All right.
Recently retired.
And how long have you been a fan of the Minnesota Vikings?
Oh, ever since I followed pro football, probably 45 years, since I was 9 or 10.
And what made you start following the Vikings?
Well, lived in Toledo, Ohio at the time as a kid. The Browns in Cleveland sucked, and so did the Lions in Detroit, so I just became a Vikings fan.
And do you have any memories from your childhood that you specifically remember, or just a favorite memory of the Vikings in general?
Well, my single favorite memory is probably an NFC championship game they played, and it was a little bit later. I think we had moved to Arizona, 73, 74, 75. Fran Tarkenton had joined the team a couple years before.
Was that against the Raiders, maybe?
That
was before the Super Bowl.
It was the Cowboys.
Okay.
And, I was in 8th grade, so that would have been 75. They won, and I think that's the game they won to go to the Super Bowl against either the Steelers or the Raiders.
Yeah.
It was. Well, they lost all their Super Bowls.
And yes, the Vikings did lose all 4 of their Super Bowl appearances. But some younger fans might not remember all of those, which is why I took to Reddit to interview some younger fans and get to know some of their experiences. When Nick was asked what some of his favorite memories of the Vikings have been over the years, his response is highlighted in blue. Nick and I've been a fan since I was born in 1985, but the earliest memories I have are from 1992 when we lost to the Redskins in the playoffs. While the Vikings had a solid defense that year, the Redskins were powering an all-time great offense, which just overwhelmed the Vikings. When asked what his favorite memory was, this was his response. Favorite memory is the Moss Moon in Lambeau. That was the absolute best, and the cherry on top was Buck's whiny commentary. When Vikings receiver Randy Moss caught a touchdown at Lambeau Field, his celebration was to run over to the field goal post and give the crowd a little surprise. Commentator Joe Buck didn't like that, calling the act disgusting. When asked what his least favorite memory was, this is his response. Least favorite memory is the 2009 NFC Championship game. The NFL had a narrative that season. It was for New Orleans to win the Super Bowl. From the crap no calls on roughing Favre to 12 men on the field and interception to the BS overtime drive that had at least 3 bad calls to give the Aints the win that the whole game was just a joke. After 3 brutal quarters of costly fumbles from Adrian Peterson and a few receivers, and some questionable hits on Favre, it's surprising the Vikings were still in it. But on the last play in the fourth quarter, Favre makes a terrible mistake, and Tracy Porter intercepts the ball with 14 seconds to go in the game. All Favre had to do in this case was run the ball about 5 yards, and the Vikings secured a victory in a field goal. However, Favre threw across his body over the field, and the Saints intercepted it to win the game in overtime. I also asked him how the Vikings have affected his life overall. His response was, "The Vikings dictate how my weekends go for many years now during football season, and I wouldn't have it any other way." I also asked Nick what keeps him watching the Vikings over the years. This is his response. "I love this team, from the early memories of Terry Allen and John Randall to today's Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes and Everson Griffin. I can't recall a single game I watched that I regretted. Though I've never experienced anything more than heartbreak, I still feel connected to this team more than ever. There have been so many great players and games and everything. This team always gives me hope, and I know that one day they're going to win it all. Please be this year, and it will mean that much more." The last question I asked him was whether or not he thinks the Vikings are relevant in the long run and whether or not people should actually watch the Vikings and care about them. His response was, "I think they're relevant because they've always been one of the best teams in the regular season, but just can't get over the hump. They've had some of the best teams, Purple People Eaters 1998, to ever get on the field. Vikings fans don't give up on the team either. We're diehards that'll be here every single game, no matter what." Nick is absolutely right about that one. Vikings fans like us are very die-hard, and will do anything for our team through thick and thin to watch the games. And yes, we do expect some disappointment, but later on, when the Vikings finally do win it all, it'll be that much sweeter. And the Vikings' future does look bright, surprisingly. They have lots of young, talented players and a pretty good record this season that makes me hopeful, at least, that the Vikings can pull off the Super Bowl win in the future. But for now, thanks for watching.